Welcome, my friends, to another lesson in wisdom and self-mastery. Today, we will dive into a topic that has puzzled men for centuries. Some think of it as an art, others as a mystery, but in truth, it's either of these things. It's a matter of understanding ourselves and understanding others. Today, we will explore the art of talking to women. Now, this is not some cheap tactic or formula. If you came here for tricks or manipulations, I'm afraid you're in the wrong place. Talking to women, like talking to anyone, is an act of connection. It's about communication, respect, and human understanding. But I know what you're thinking. It's not always easy, right? Sometimes it feels like there's a wall between what you want to say and what you end up saying. But let me tell you, most of these difficulties don't come from the conversation itself. They come from within us. So, today we will go deeper. I will share with you stories, lessons, and of course, my own experiences. We will uncover how we, as individuals, can overcome our insecurities, doubts, and assumptions, so that when we talk to women, or anyone, really, we do so with authenticity and confidence. But first, let's start with a simple story. In ancient Greece, there was a young man, full of nervous energy, eager to impress. He was smitten by a woman of great beauty and intelligence. Yet every time he approached her, he would stumble on his words, speaking too quickly, or worse, saying nothing at all. One day, he sought the advice of an elder, a Stoic philosopher. He asked, "Why do I feel so anxious when I speak to her?" The philosopher smiled and said, "You are anxious not because of her, but because of you. You are afraid of how you will appear, afraid of rejection, and you are obsessed with winning her approval. But tell me, why should her opinion of you matter more than your own?" The young man paused, realizing that his anxiety had nothing to do with the woman and everything to do with his own insecurities. "How, then, should I speak to her?" he asked. The elder replied, "Speak to her as you would to anyone, with respect, honesty, and without expectation." You see, the first mistake many make when talking to women is that they approach the conversation with the wrong mindset. They think, "What can I say to impress her?" Or, "How can I avoid embarrassing myself?" This way of thinking is what causes nervousness. It's a result of caring too much about how we're perceived and forgetting that the person we're speaking to is just like us, human. In the words of the great Stoic philosopher Epictetus, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them." The woman you're talking to isn't causing your anxiety. It's the idea you've built in your mind about how important the conversation is, how perfect your words must be, how flawless you must appear. Now, imagine approaching a conversation without this pressure. Imagine talking to a woman without feeling like you're on trial. Instead of trying to impress her, you're simply trying to understand her. Instead of worrying about what she thinks of you, you're genuinely interested in learning who she is. This shift in mindset is powerful because it takes the focus off you and places it where it belongs, on the conversation itself. I remember one particular experience of my own. It was during a casual gathering at a coffee shop, and I found myself sitting across from a woman I admired for her intelligence and wit. Normally, in such situations, I might have felt pressure to be clever or charming. But instead, I took a different approach. I asked her about the things she was passionate about. We talked about books, travel, and philosophy. Instead of trying to steer the conversation toward things that would make me seem impressive, I allowed the conversation to flow naturally. I didn't worry about how I was coming across. I was simply present, truly listening. What I realized was that when I stopped trying so hard, I was able to connect more deeply. And she, in turn, opened up because she could sense that I was genuinely interested in what she had to say. This brings me to a key lesson in talking to women, or anyone for that matter: be genuinely curious. Ask questions not to keep the conversation going, but because you actually want to know the answers. Be present, be mindful, and give your full attention to the other person. This kind of engagement is rare and valuable. Now, let me take a moment to remind you to subscribe to Students of Wisdom if you haven't already. We're building a community of people who are committed to growing in wisdom, understanding, and self-mastery. If these lessons resonate with you, make sure to join us on this journey. Another important aspect of talking to women, or anyone, is to recognize the importance of silence. Yes, silence. You see, many of us are uncomfortable with pauses in conversation. We feel the need to fill every gap with words. But here's the thing, silence is powerful. It shows that you're comfortable with yourself, that you're not rushing to fill space with meaningless chatter. The philosopher Seneca said, "Speech belongs half to the speaker and half to the listener." In conversation, listening is just as important, if not more, than talking. When you allow for moments of silence, you give both yourself and the other person time to reflect, to think, to process. You show that you're not in a rush, and that you're present in the moment. I remember an old friend of mine, a quiet man, who never felt the need to dominate conversations. Instead, he listened intently and spoke only when he had something meaningful to say. People were drawn to him, not because he spoke a lot, but because when he did, his words carried weight. There's wisdom in this approach. It reminds us that our words are valuable, but they don't need to be endless. Let's talk about another challenge that often arises when men approach conversations with women: fear of rejection. It's one of the greatest sources of anxiety. But if you adopt the Stoic mindset, you'll see that rejection is not something to be feared. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, often reminded us that we cannot control what others think or do. The only thing we control is our own thoughts and actions. When you approach a woman, you may be rejected. That's a possibility. But rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It's simply an outcome, a response to a particular situation, and nothing more. If we tie our sense of self-worth to the reactions of others, we give away our power. But if we understand that rejection is simply a part of life, we learn to see it as either good nor bad, just a neutral event that we can learn from. In fact, rejection can be one of our greatest teachers. It shows us where we need to grow. It teaches us resilience and humility. So, when you talk to women, do so without the fear of rejection. Speak as though you are simply engaging in an exchange, and no matter the outcome, you remain grounded in your own value. The art of talking to women, in the end, is not about tactics or strategies. It's about embracing the core Stoic values, being present, being mindful, being authentic. It's about listening more than you speak, being comfortable with silence, and letting go of the need for approval or validation. Women, like all people, appreciate authenticity. They appreciate when someone approaches them with respect, without an agenda, and with a genuine desire to connect. The truth is, the more you work on yourself, your inner life, your mindset, your ability to be present, the easier it becomes to engage in meaningful conversations. So, next time you talk to a woman, or anyone really, remember these lessons: be curious, not anxious. Be present, not distracted. Speak from a place of authenticity, not performance. When you do this, you'll find that the art of talking to women is no mystery at all. It's simply an extension of living with wisdom. Thank you for joining me today. If you found value in this lesson, remember to subscribe to Students of Wisdom and continue your journey toward a life of meaning, purpose, and self-mastery. Until next time, be well.